Well, hello and welcome back to these lovely video reviews that I have for you. I'm hoping everything is good. I'm hoping that you're investing in yourself, that you're taking some notes. Sometimes having a little journal with you and writing some ideas down, or maybe your phone, but anything that kind of help you get your ideas out there, because sometimes your mind is so filled with information and you're trying to assess that, and it's really hard sometimes. You might want to get something going, and pad of paper is fine. It doesn't have to be that big. Your phone can do that as well. You just find an app or use the notes on your phone is good to organize your thoughts. And so you're taking all this, and I'm hoping that you're investing. It's a lot of investing on yourself. And a lot of people might not think that way, but everything that you're doing hopefully is improving you. Even just a little teeny things, and not everything. And you're always looking at the big picture about how do I improve myself, because time is long if you know how to use it. If you saw one of my other videos about that, you just got to use the time because it is short, but it can be long because you are organizing yourself into being more adaptable and goal orientated and stuff like that. But hopefully you're doing good. So I have another book for you today, and this one talks about more like your work ethic. And I think that sometimes we're like a workaholic. And he talks about in this book that working less and you're making more. Sometimes you can work so much, but you don't gain that much ground. Kind of see what I mean? Kind of mean for that. And it's like you're traveling on the road, and you're traveling on the road, but you're making yourself so tired because you're just keep on pedaling and pedaling and pedaling, or driving down the road, and you're trying to get there in a very hurry. And that's just one analogy of that. But we, as civilizations, we work to make ourselves better, but we work to survive. So here we go. The book is called Work Less, Make More. And it's by James Schramko. Hope I did that one right. I probably didn't. Last names. But he talks a little bit about that. And we're going to go through that today. And so the book is not a very long book, but there is a lot of information. I mean, they're pretty big chapters and stuff like that, like big print. And so it only goes up to, let's say, about 230. So, I mean, that's not too bad. And this is a 2011 book, by the way, that was written. So let's go ahead and talk about this a little bit. And he talks about effective hourly rate. First thing he shouts out, he says about this thing about effective hourly rate. And so what that means is that let's go ahead and do this. Take the amount of revenue you make in a month. Okay, so amount of money you make in a month, and subtract your cost. So your cost is whatever you're doing, right? What you have left is the monthly profit. Okay, so here's an example. Let's say you own a business. If you take out a loan for your business to buy supplies. So maybe you have a restaurant business. You got to take out a loan to buy your microwaves, your appliances, right? So dishwashers and cooking ware. It's very expensive. So maybe it's like $30,000. I think one time I heard it was like $80,000 or something like that somebody took out for their business. But that's a loan. A loan is just borrowed money. You got to pay that back with interest. And I'm hoping you got a pretty good interest rate, especially for $80,000. And so you got to pay that back. But think of it this way. You got to make revenue, and you got to subtract that loan to get what your profit is. And he's talking about that. But without the money involved, what value do you put into your life of that? So you work so many hours, let's say you work 70 hours a week. And is that straight work? Or is that just kind of like padiddle little here and here work? And I'm trying to get to a point here. And I think he's getting the same point I am. It's called personal effectiveness. What are you giving to your job? Some people don't give a whole lot on the job. They do it for the money because they have to live. Obviously, we got to pay the bills. And you got to put into your time. But it's not just about the money. It's about your personal wealth, your personal effectiveness, he calls it, into the job. And he calls it this, the one that sends the emails and makes the money. And he says, look in a mirror, track your time, manage your inbox better, set up some bumpers, set up filters, time blocks, focus, and stuff. So how are you becoming more effective in the job and maybe in life? And so you're doing so much, but you're getting overwhelmed. But maybe it's not making an impact. Some people work a lot of hours, but they don't gain any ground. And it's hard to come up with a personal example of that, but maybe you're a person that does that. You think that way. I'm working all these hours, but I'm not really making a dent in my company or in my job. Well, maybe you don't think that because you haven't worked there that long. Some people think that I've only worked here 8 months. I should be making an impact. Dude, you worked there 8 months. Give yourself some time. And you're personal in debt on that one. And it takes a lot of planning on that. It takes a lot of goals, short-term and long-term goals. And it takes a lot of planning. And so speaking of planning, in the book, he says there's 3 levels of planning that he describes. One is goal setting. Just like I've been talking about in other videos, goals are a thing. And some people don't want to set goals because they don't want to meet them, because if they don't meet them, they get kind of depressed. Understandable. And so this could increase anxiety because just what I said, but it could also be the way that you can set some time limits onto that and that you can get things done. The second thing of planning is time. And this is kind of what I was talking a little bit ago about time and scheduling scheduling and checking in with yourself, making use of your time and making it feel motivated, that you're using your time wisely, because we face it, time still clicks. Time still clicks on your watch or on your phone. It still goes. The 24 hours keeps going around. I mean, you're not going to stop that. And there's so many days in a month that you can only do so much. And you'd be surprised what you can do in a day. You'd be surprised what you can do in a month. You can be surprised what you can do in a year. The third thing of planning is you got to review what you're doing every 12 weeks. So what he means by that, I should say, is that you got to have to do that check-in, but you also got to check in with the time block. And he talks about that in the second planning, but I think we're going to talk about these anyway. But he says that you're going to have to do a little review. So the first one is that you set a goal. The thing is, how am I going to get there? And how much time? But as long as you are on that path, you got to kind of stand back and view the results, review a little bit. You got to look outside the box and see what things need to be adjusted and what things need to be fixed a little bit. And that's part of working less, or the mindset of working less. And that makes you more productive, because some things don't always have to take so long. You might can cut them in half and more effective result time. So if you don't know who Thomas Jefferson is, he was our third president. I think he wrote the Declaration of Independence. And he has a quote in the book. He says, "There is nothing more unequal than the equal treatment of unequal people." You're probably thinking, well, what? There's a lot into that. So there's nothing more than unequal than equal treatment. So things take time. And some things don't need the same treatment. They might need unequal treatment at certain times. So you can take that as it is and maybe rewatch this again and pause this or something like that and go back to that and understand it. But in the book, there's a chapter called 64-4. 64-4. And this is what I'm talking about. According to, it's called the Petro principle. It's the AKA the 80/20 rule. Let me explain what that is. 20% of what you're investing, input, is responsible for 80% of what the results obtain. So the 20% that you're putting in, the 80% comes out of it. So it's kind of so whatever you're doing, that 20% has to be dedicated, laser focused into it. That result blends in to the 80% output. So think it's not like an it's not like these are two erasers, by the way. These are like two equal, right? But think of it this way: as you're pushing more 20% this way, you're more effective on what you're doing. And I like that. I think that it's the dedication time that you put into it makes it more effect. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, you can read more about that. If you take one step further and apply the rule to itself, 4% of what you do generates 64% results. That's what that 64/4 does. So let me read that one more time. He says, if you take one step further and apply the rule itself, 4% of what you generate is 64% of what the results are. Okay? So you're kind of one good versus 64 many. That's how I got out of it. So, I mean, maybe it's kind of like the domino effect. You ever play dominoes? If you don't know what dominoes are, you can look it up. But I have two erasers here, and let's just take this book. And it's kind of like you're setting dominoes in. And it's like if you push this one over the right way, it's gonna knock this one down. So like that, right? And it keeps on going. And I think it might relate to the domino effect, is that if you only give so much, after a while it's going to trickle down into more. That's how I think of what he's saying there. But you have to use some checklists on this. So every so often, as these are tipping over, maybe you got to stop and check the progress along the way. And you're monitoring your performance. You're trying to make sure things are working out, hoping in your favor. There are 4 mistakes people do when you build a team. So in business, you want to have good people that work for you, right? Sometimes family members are not the right people to work with, because guess what? Your family, things in your family might happen, and guess what? It's that domino effect again. It's like you're tipping over, and family sometimes takes grudges. They might want to do the same thing, or maybe have more pride. I don't know. But here's what happens. He says that there's that these mistakes people make when they are building a team for their business. Sometimes they're slow to hire people. There's no systems. There's no training. And I had 4 is poor leadership. So there's 4 mistakes. Slow to hire. We're going to talk about this. No systems in place. No training. Training is everything. If you don't train your people, you're not going to have an effective system. And I think this is the problem with some of our companies today, is that you got to train your people, because that makes your system work. And then there's no leadership. There's no performance. There's no somebody to guide you and push you, I guess. So it's a lot of competency based. And you got to struggle a little bit. And so let's keep going with this. Your job as a leader is to put the train back on the tracks when it derails. Oh, I love that quote that that James in the book here. He says the job of a leader is to put the train back on the tracks when it derails. So if something's not going on with your job or with your company or with your life, and you're following somebody, a good leader, a good person, kind of puts you back on track. There's a video that I did a little bit ago. It was on True North, and they were talking about a compass. They were talking about a compass. If you saw this video, you can watch it. or if you haven't seen this video, I would watch it. Very good. There's a compass, and you're going in one. If you're going that direction, right? Your compass, right? And you're going in that direction, and sometimes you're following a certain person or a group, and if that leader doesn't do their job or is a poor leader, your direction is not going to make sense. You're going to be kind of like, oh my God, what am I going to do? And then you have to kind of reorientate it a little bit and then go into a different direction. But a good leader puts you back on track. And that's really good. So you got to keep your team in the loop as well. You got to keep that communication. It's like if a job doesn't make a sale, you got no income. So if I'm trying to sell this to somebody, or maybe my company makes erasers. If I don't sell erasers, guess what? What happens? You have no cost. So that takes a lot of inspiration, and it takes a lot of persuasion to get your company or get your group going. And a good leader does that. And it doesn't require that much work. You just have to be a good role model, but with the right training and the right people. And revenue is just like your staffing, your advertising, your logistics, your rent, your design, and your overhead. That's what makes a company thrive. But you got to still pay for the other things involved. And so he kind of comes into what we call a scammer framework. Now, a scrammer framework, so SCAMPER kind of framework. And what this framework is, and this how he describes in the book, is a creative tool that helps you become up with new ways to get results. So it's a creative way to come up with new results, or a way to come up with good results. And it's called Schramko framework. So let me look at the, it's abbreviations here. So each word or each letter is an abbreviation of something. So here's what it is. S for substitute, combine, adapt, modify, purpose, eliminate, and rearrange. That's what the scammer framework. And I think what he's trying to say is, in order to create something that will help you thrive, to get more results, you've got to substitute a little bit of curiosity into that. You got to combine people and their ideas. You got to adapt. Some people don't want to adapt. It's like new technology. It's like AI coming out, right? AI is pretty much the new technology that's going to take over some thinking. And I don't want to be mean like that, because it's true. And am I kind of scared of it? Yeah, I think sometimes it makes you not think a little bit about what you're doing, but it's an assisting tool. And I think that some jobs will change a bit, but I think you need to adapt. And I think that's what people don't do. They don't want to adapt to that new technology because, one, they don't feel like it, or two, they're procrastinating, or three, they're scared. And they think that, it's scarcity. I'm scared to have that happen. And you have to adapt to it because technology does change. And I think I read one study like this. It's like when people become older, like when I say older, like in their 30s or 40s in their career, guess what they stop doing? They stop growing. Once they get their career going, guess what? Their education starts to decline. And is that a good thing? I don't know. It depends on what job. It depends on how satisfied you are with your job. And I know some people are, and I'm not going to complain about that. But I think that your brain should not do that. Your brain is always growing. And sometimes to delay Alzheimer's and I forgot what the other one is, to diminish that stuff that affects your brain, keep your brain going. Keep those neurons, keep that neuroplasticity going and active. If you know anything about psychology, or I think it's biopsychology, you can take a class on biopsychology. There's a lot of stuff that goes around in your brain that you can keep going with it. And you don't want to keep your brain dumbed down. That's probably not the word that you probably want to use, but it's just keep going, adapt. Next one. If something doesn't work, modify it. And modify is always something that you got to do every single day. Is modify your life. Make small little changes if something's not working. What's the purpose of this? What am I trying to aim at? If I'm going in this direction, why am I going that direction? Sometimes you have to eliminate certain things in your way, and that's hard because when he talks about elimination, sometimes you have people in your life that slow you down. Okay, be careful about that. I'm not saying to be negative. That slow you down, that might say, you're not going to do anything. You're not going to do that. I don't have any respect for you for doing that. And they want to talk you down. And sometimes they're holding you back because they're doing this negativity to you because they don't believe in themselves. So guess what they do? They displace onto some people else. And this is what a lot of people don't understand, is that in psychology, I forgot who the psychologist is that did this. I think it's Sigmund Freud. I think so. So you look this up. Sometimes when they're thinking negatively about you, they are really negative about them, and they want to displace their anger onto you because then it makes them feel equal. And then what happens is that they get really mad at themselves, and then they have to displace their anger somewhere. So if you ever heard they get mad and they go kick the dog. It's an old expression, is that they're taking their anger out and they're directing it onto something else. And this is what happens with people. They get really angry and they have to displace that anger because they don't believe in themselves. And so what they have to do is, hey, let me go on to you. Rearrange your brain a little bit. Rearrange your brain. I'm not saying physically. I'm saying in your thoughts, rearrange things. Adapt if things are not working. And so this could be applied to anything. And it's just a creative tool that helps you come up with new ways to get results. It's called the Scamper framework. You can look this up if you want. Scamper. SCAMPER. You can look that up if you like. I could probably find it in the book, but I don't want to waste the time. And so you're trying to make all this work, and whatever you're valuing, and he got a formula in here. It's called a profit formula. So this is probably more about business orientated than personal life. I like to apply it to everything I do, not just business, because I think a business is life. A business is life. And if your life goes good, your business hopefully will be good, right? It should be correlated, a positive correlation. And he says that it's called a profit formula. And he says that you have to have customers, the price, the frequency, and the margin equals what you get out of it, your profit. So the people in your life is your customers. The price, how much investment you put on yourself is a price. How frequently you do all that investing. So maybe you're reading all the time. You're becoming more fresh with yourself. You're tweaking your skills. Your professional development, you're getting yourself much more improved. Maybe you're exercising, I don't know, but something like that. And then the margin. So margin kind of has to fit into a little, like a little, not a little box, but kind of like a little barrier. Maybe the barrier is just, hey, this is me. I'm trying to do this, and that equals your outcome in your life. They call it profit. He calls it profit. And so it's really just how you are approaching life in that realm. So that's pretty much what I got from this book. Like I said, there's probably more that I'm missing, but I don't want to do too much because I think that it relates to more work than personal life. And I'm trying to relate to everything I do, not just that. And I'm not a business owner or anything like that. But there's people are. So you got to be in the proper mindset. And so very interesting book. So my takeaway, I think it's really good. There's a lot of good information, like in pretty much any book that you buy. Some books, you got to read them and figure it out. But it has some pretty good quotes in there that you can read. But I don't know. I might keep this one. I'm debating. But, work less. So what I said in the beginning is just the small things might have a big effect, and it's the way you plan yourself and doing your progress works. And remember that he has 3 layers of 3 ways of planning: goals, time, and monitoring, which is fine. I think that's for everything. So, interesting book. And I'm hoping that you will maybe look at this too. I don't know how much this cost me. I forgot when I got this. But anyway, hope you like that. Comment if you have any questions. I will try to get back to you as soon as I can, and keep following. And I'm hoping that you're doing okay. And make sure you make an investment on yourself, because small things, small investments can go big. Have fun.